Mike, let's look ahead with Penn State. Came off an 8-4 season. Things look really positive. O'Brien just announced that he is staying. Let's start with that question first. How important was it to finally hear it out of his lips? I think you asked the question, you told me in a press conference, and he didn't really want to talk about it.
I asked the question the week before the Indiana game, which was the second last game of the season. I asked it. It seemed like it annoyed him, and he ducked it. After the Indiana game, another writer asked him it, and it seemed to annoy him even more, and he ducked it. And then all of a sudden, yesterday, after the season's over, he announces it on a radio show in Atlanta. He was at Georgia Tech, so maybe he knows those guys or something. Whatever. I just thought the timing of it was strange. So I wonder if, and also the agent doing an interview with ESPN.com the same day, maybe they were looking at something for a couple of weeks and then decided that there's nothing there. I don't know. Who knows? But anyway, it would have been disaster for him to leave. Can you imagine them trying to find another coach now?
No.
Can you imagine how the kids would have reacted to that? The current players in the team? I mean, that would have been a mess for their football program. It would have been a mess for me to try to deal with that as a writer, and that's really what we're concerned about here. But
I thought it would have been more disastrous than even what the sanctions were, because you would have lost all the recruits he's got coming in for this year.
Yeah.
We even work on 2014, but then there's players that are still allowed to leave. This is like free agency up until the start of practice here in next summer. This would have set him back so far. They talk about the sanctions. This would have set him back even further. So to get the stability, and he's out on the recruiting trail today, right now. We filmed this on a Wednesday.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah,
I think he's going after a junior college quarterback named Jake Walters in Ohio. I'm putting out a plug for Jake Walters now, because you get him in there, you're going to keep Allen Robinson here, and it's just going to keep on. The train will keep on trucking or whatever.
Yeah, they do have a quarterback problem, but if they solve that quarterback problem, and especially if they get a guy in here who's a little older, a little more mature, and more experienced, and is willing and able to learn the system, then a lot of things look good about next year in terms of their offense, in terms of their skill position players and everything else.
Linemen, how many are back? There's like 4 back, right?
There's like 4 back who play some. Now, they will lose Farrell. They will lose Stankiewicz, who probably was who was first team all conference and was a very good player. And a key to the center is an important position. You know, it's involved in blocking schemes and all that kind of stuff. So I mean, they've got a couple holes to fill in the offensive line, but you would have to say on paper, if they get this JUCO quarterback, they're in better shape offensively on paper than they were a year ago at this time, given the sanctions.
Right. I mean, you got the running backs are going to be back, and Belton might transfer, but you've got Akil Lynch that sat out this year, so you can reserve plenty time for both.
And that was
and who's the guy that just went nuts again on Saturday? The
Zach Swinak, who has been terrific. Ran for 1,000 yards and had. Going into week 4 against Temple, he had 3 on the season. 3 yards gained. He got his first start in week 4, and he ended up with exactly 1,000 yards.
And he just reminds me of some kind of a throwback player.
He's a throwback, bunch of throwbacks.
You know, I'm curious to see, because now the offensive line, I don't care if they're graduating guys. We have a coach in there that actually can coach them. You could see what they did. Looking at who could leave? What do you believe? Will there be a lot of players leaving? The way the NCAA set them up, they didn't do them any justice here. These players are allowed to transfer up until the start of next season, up until almost August, before they start their practices. So do you think there's going to be an exodus? How's this going to work out?
Well, Bill Belton is a guy who you got to believe is thinking about it. I mean, after the way he dropped off the charts this year because of Zach Swinak, you got to believe he's thinking about it. Allen Robinson is a kid who was from the Midwest. If Ohio State and Michigan State and Notre Dame would come to call, is he going to think about it? He's one that I don't know. He seems a little questionable. I don't think they're going to lose a lot. But if they would lose Allen Robinson, that would be a big deal, obviously.
It would be a big deal. You think he would want to stay because of this offense?
You'd think so, yeah. You'd think so. I mean, I'm not predicting that he's going anywhere. It's just, you would have liked to hear something at this point. And given his background and situation, I don't know.
Stephen Bench is the only quarterback that's under scholarship for the spring, so obviously they're trying to address that. A lot of the players that they're bringing in are going to try to come in early. This 2013 class, like Alan Brenneman out of Cedar Cliff, is going to come in and enroll in January. Yeah. So he'll be counted towards the 2012 class.
That's correct.
And it won't hurt him with these 15 scholarships. They're trying to get some other guys.
Yeah.
How do you think that the whole recruiting class is going to play out now because of the 8-4 season, because of Brian staying, and what we've seen this last year?
Well, the issue is that you're not going to be able to stockpile players. You're going to have to be right. You have fewer chances. You can't afford to be wrong. You got to be right, and it's going to player evaluation and player development are going to become even more critical than ever. I think they're going to do okay in recruiting. I mean, this Hackenberg kid is the #1 pro-style quarterback in the high school class of 2013. He can't enroll early. He goes to a military school in Virginia. He's not going to be able to enroll early, which would have been a big help, I think. But still, and Brenneman is very highly regarded. I mean, they're doing, I think, based on what's possible, they're doing pretty well in recruiting, but they're limited in terms of what's possible.
Again, I think being an NFL coach and having a 53-man roster will help him to use these resources to the best of his ability when you don't have as many resources to use.
This is the most interesting offseason in Penn State history, no question.